Being a first mover, that's different. There can be a first mover advantage, but a first mover doesn't mean you're the first one to make the product. You don't make the first smartphone, you make the first iPhone. So if you're going to start a business in fashion today, I would never myself do it unless starting a creator-led brand, where you have a co-founder who has made a distribution because they're sort of famous and they love creating content and they are your content machine.
Were there also like moments where you thought about quitting?
Yeah, there's 2 times where it almost wasn't worth it anymore. The first one was,
what if your shirt never stained, never smelled, and lasted years longer than anything else in your closet? Well, that's the promise of Labfresh, the fashion tech brand that broke records with one of Europe's most successful crowdfunding campaigns. They've raised millions directly from their customer, built communities, they built a flagship store here in Amsterdam, but also in Copenhagen, and they also recently, just 2 weeks ago, closed another 800k crowdfunding round. Today I'm sitting down with Kasper Brandi. He's one of the co-founders of Labfresh, and I talk with him about the success, but also about the failures, the trial and error, and what it really takes to become a successful fashion startup founder. Kasper, welcome to the 301 podcast.
thank you, great to be here.
I want to go back with you to a very specific day in your life. I want to go back to the day, one night before you launched your first crowdfunding campaign. What went through your head?
Oh, that's a great place to start, I think. That's after we came back from Berlin and moved into an apartment in Amsterdam. I was waiting to get out of my contract with the German company that took over my first startup. And on the day we could get out, we were launching this. So we had been waiting for months because the product was ready. But I was in the contract, so I was not allowed to launch yet. So when we finally launched, it was these months of accumulated hesitation that has been building up. And also we launched at 7 a.m. So there was not really any sleep. And then you press that button and your video is live. And then the entire world, your old classmates and old colleagues and everyone can see it. So if you fail, it's the most public fail that you can imagine. So yeah, not a lot of sleep.
Is that something that you are busy with, like with kind of like the fear of failure, or are you more a fearless type of guy?
I wish I could say fearless, but every time we launch a crowdfunding campaign, I get very, very nervous the evening before and I recheck everything and I click every button. Because what if people are tired of us? What if they think we should grow up now and just get a bank loan or get real investors? You know?
It's like, okay, guys, after the 5th crowdfunding campaign, It's finally time to move on.
We have, since 2017, we did 9 crowdfunding campaigns. And besides the product crowdfunding, in actual investments, it's 5 million euros.
Yeah.
And maybe people think it's about time that we don't need money anymore. But actually, any business, no matter if you're Apple or Tesla, that there will be debt in a business. It just makes sense to have. So then it's just a part of the business, even when we are at 100 million.
Yeah. And your crowdfunding campaign quickly became really successful, like even the first one already, I think. Was there like a moment of like hesitation or like also this kind of like failure where you said like, I'm not sure if this will work out, like we don't have a lot of backers, or did it like kick off like right from the get-go that you thought, okay, wow, I didn't expect that?
Well, everything is about scope, of course, but the first campaign felt like the most successful. Like the revenue was only 150,000 euros. No, yeah, something around that. But at that time, we had no emailing list. We had no customers. It was just me and Lotte in our apartment in Amsterdam Oost, and we made an amazing product, but we only had this one prototype. And we had been asking our friends to post on Facebook and on Instagram and so on. But yeah. Oh, and I had been scraping all my contacts, all my 4,000 contacts on LinkedIn, so I could illegally email all of them until MailChimp would block us. And then, it actually almost immediately went viral because of one simple reason. We had a viral clip of red wine that falls on a white shirt, like red wine that falls on a white shirt, and the drops just trickling down, and that just went viral in the entire world. And we had views. Probably millions of views, and we had orders from 42 countries within a week or something.
That's crazy. But I think that's also like, I think one of the videos that I saw, I think many people, especially I think in the Netherlands, but also like in 42 other countries, they've seen like that video. Like, was that then already, I think that was 2017? I think still quite early for, let's say, viral clips. I think was TikTok even out there 2017? Probably not, right?
No TikTok.
Yeah.
It was like a Lad Bible will write you and say, give us some files and we make a video.
Yeah, exactly. So was that already like part of your strategy that you said like, oh, we're gonna place that like smartly, like we make like a really cool video? Or was it more like by accident that you said like, okay, this is a cool video? Because like if you would analyze it from like a content perspective nowadays, you would say like, oh, that's great. You use a visual hook in the first 3 seconds and all this kind of stuff. But I think back then probably your thought process was not like this.
No, plenty of things has been random in our business, but having a viral clip for our product was 100% on purpose. The whole way we develop products is that it needs one main unique selling point that you can tailor a whole narrative around so that it's actually exciting, like how we make these products out of oyster shells. Okay, you can make some videos where you smash these oyster shells and you melt them into the yarn, and it creates a really good technological effect. If you take the oysters out of it, it's just a normal sweater, and I don't know how to sell a normal product. It's too expensive. It's too hard. I prefer it to be a bit easier.
Yeah, super nice. How much do you think is luck in business?
Luck plays a role, but luck comes to the people who are pursuing it also. So you put yourself out there, just like when you make a podcast during Corona or something, or you publicly state your goal to run a marathon, and then some other people will come to you and say, hey, have you tried these shoes or these supplements? If you put yourself out there and you work hard for it, then luck will land in your lap. That's at least how it's been for us. What's much more important, and that is much harder for me to get right, I think, is timing. Right? You can make the best technological product in the world, in our case, a new technology for textiles. But if you launch too late and it turns out that all the big brands are going to launch the same product 1 year later, or there's already 5 pioneers who made a similar or better product, and that's also live, you're just going to drown, and it's just going to be crazy expensive to scale it. You got to be early, but not too early.
And how do you kind of predict like timing, or is that has this just to do with like trial and error, or is that like after 6, 7 years, 8 years of founding, you have like a feeling of, I think this is the right moment to launch something?
I would say try to ask your friends if they think it's a really good idea. If they all think it's a great idea, you're too late. Then don't do it. What you see most of the brands that we celebrate in the Netherlands, most of them are a copy of an American brand. Someone who did it or did something similar in the US and blew up, and then a year or two later you can do the same thing in Europe. So that's at least a good indicator. But the technology, if you use technology, has to be mature. So we are an example of being too early. So we made a product that looks great in a video, and we got the exclusive rights for this patented material from these French scientists who invented it. And I flew to Paris and I convinced them to sign with us and we can promote this. But it was too unstable and it was too expensive, and I lost money on every shirt we sold. And then, we developed our own in-house treatment that could do the same thing with the stain repellency and the odor repellency. And it took a lot of time, and we got research grants and so on. And then when it's finally done, and now I have the best product, okay, that's arbitrage. But that arbitrage lasted for 6 months. And then some big German chemical companies had something similar. And then I just discarded our own treatment and jumped on the bandwagon of the bigger ones. And this taught me this important lesson, that it's extremely hard and expensive to be a pioneer, right? We sunk 1.5 million into developing something that 1 year later was replaced by bigger companies. So being a pioneer, that's how you lose money. Being a first mover, that's different. There can be a first mover advantage, but a first mover doesn't mean you're the first one to make the product. You don't make the first smartphone, you make the first iPhone.
I think that's a very good lesson for a lot of founders out there, because I think everyone tries always to be like the pioneer, like the kind of like monopoly that everyone runs through it.
I see this also with young founders, that you don't think the product is special enough, so you go for some crazy technology that you found in a weird trade fair in China or something, like we also did. And the biggest fashion brands in the last 10 years in Denmark, the Netherlands and Germany, and in the UK, within menswear at least, are brands that made pants with stretch in it, right? And we saw that and we could make that, and we thought that's not special enough. We need odor repellency and technical yarns and melting all sorts of weird materials together. And in the end, the guys who made stretchy pants became 10 times bigger.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really crazy. I think you mentioned before that the night before your crowdfunding campaign, you were still like under a contract of a German company that acquired your company, Cloakroom. If we go back a couple of years, because we will talk about Labfresh in a bit, because I think there's so much more story. I think you scratched on a couple of really cool points already. I'm so curious, like also to find out more. If you go back a couple of years to Cloakroom and your first like real startup experience, I think you had a couple of gigs here and there before Cloakroom, but I think that was like the first, like maybe that also really felt like a startup. What kind of gap did you see in the market and how did it develop?
Yeah, the Cloakroom was the coolest startup experience you can imagine having. I had so much fun and I developed a lot and met great people. It was one big, beautiful mess, of course, but basically it was a personal shopping service for men. We saw an American version that made the same thing called Trunk Club. And we saw a problem that a lot of men had where we didn't appreciate online shopping the way women did. So we go to Zalando and we search for a white shirt and they have 200 identical white shirts and we don't know which one to choose. So we need help when we shop. That's why we had a lot of amazing personal shoppers that can help you with this. And they do an intake and they check your Facebook pictures and you do a phone call. In the beginning, everyone had a phone call. And they will design 3 outfits and send it to you in a box. And that experience just also went viral quite early on. So I think 3 months after we rented our office, we had raised €1 million in venture capital. And in total, in 2.5 years, we burned through around €3 million in funding. And we had 55 people, and I think we just hit 10 million in revenue, and we were burning so much money, and it was a mess, but all the metrics were good. And this is an example of how things were back in 2015, right? Venture capital went into consumer brands or consumer startups like this. And there was a lot of money available back then, and profits were not really on the radar, and you just had to go hard and hire a lot of people. So when it was acquired, we had €600,000 back on the bank account, and we were burning 120K a month. And I was so happy that these Germans wanted to join, and because they were a lot better at running a company than us, we were quite young. I never had an employee before, and now we had this whole team.
Yeah.
So I just thought, it makes sense to do this roll up and get in on a bigger player, and together we will have all these synergies.
Would you say that like today you would run Cloakroom like more effectively and maybe would make it even bigger before you would exit it?
I would run it way better, but then it wouldn't explode. I think there was something beautiful about like explosive growth, 4-digit growth and hiring a lot of people, and you're all riding on the same wave. And also, if you take it more slow, VCs will not invest in you. Like, you need to show a hockey stick growth and you need to show some crazy numbers, and you need to show that you are a little bit crazy, I think, in order for people to believe that this is an opportunity for exponential growth.
So like the naivety that you had in the beginning basically was like something that also the startup kind of required a little bit, if I hear it right.
They literally said to us, our first investor, that you're 2 very aggressive young men without patience. And that's what we invest in.
That's nice.
And then we had a KPI where we had to hire 3 new people per month.
Okay.
Which you wouldn't do nowadays, I think.
No.
But the experience you get, and in the sense that you do it for other people's money without being personally bankrupt if it doesn't work well.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And then also arriving in Germany when these guys took over and seeing how they were running their business and learning that, okay, I'm good at the growth part, but wow, I am not a good operator, and I really gotta learn how to get shit organized better.
How, like, what was your biggest learning in that period? Would you say, if you look back on Cloakroom, like what was the one thing that really stand out for you?
Well, I learned a lot about myself, what I'm good at and less good at. And I learned that my personality type, I can think that everything is better if I micromanage it, right? And I can keep an overview of everything, and I'm just a commander, and I point at stuff and people do it. And then if they all do it exactly the way I want it, it's the best. And that doesn't scale, and that's also not the best. I'm actually not the best at running things. My personality type just always think that we are. And then you can double down on what you're good at. So just like with Labfresh, I'm good at creating a product that's scalable and that has some viral potential, and to create a certain culture in the early days that just means we get a lot of stuff done with not a lot of people.
So you're like basically the innovator that comes up with like the ideas, like implements like the products, but like then the execution, like someone else has to do that.
Yeah, in the framework we use, then my personality type is the visionary, and my co-founder, who's also my wife, she's the operator, what you call the integrator. So she runs a tight ship, and I live in the future. That's how we explain it. And if you allow me, and if I stay out of her shit and let her run the business really well, and I just focus on the future and the next country launch or the next product or whatever it is, fundraising, then that will go really well. And as soon as I think I'm better at running this ship, you can clearly see that things are going wrong.
Interesting. And how is it in your relationship, if I may ask? Like, I mean, there's like a business relationship, but also the personal relationship. Is it then similar, or do you change roles?
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't think you can use those personality types directly in a couple's relationship, but it's not like a normal relationship because we've always been working together. We also fell in love at work. She was one of the first 40 employees at my first company. But at home, it's more divided. You do whatever you have the energy to do. I always cook and clean, but I have no idea if we pay taxes or if I'm getting salary. I don't even know how to log into my own bank account because she just runs our entire household operations. I don't know if we paid for the new closets we had installed last month. You know, it's just, I don't know anything about how my household is running.
That's funny. Yeah, but I think then in the end, like you have the same kind of role as a founder, but also like at home a little bit. Like
yes,
one is implementing and the other one is like keeping the vision together.
If my wife is listening to this and I'm saying I'm the visionary of the household, then she will also say, no, that's also her, because we just had major renovations done in our house, and she made all the Pinterest boards and she hired all the contractors and she did all of it. And sometimes I would say, I would like that to be cheaper or something, but that was the extent of my vision.
So you're the basically a roommate that lives a tenant.
I mean, I just have to get out of her way, and then she will run
access. Nice. You mentioned Lotte, like your wife already, like you met her during your time at Cloakroom, and then now she's also the co-founder of Labfresh, so you do that together. Was there maybe like a time or like a period, especially like after, how long was that period of Cloakroom? Like 4 or 5 years? I think you worked like 4 or 5 years on Cloakroom, but then it got acquired, right?
3.5 years.
3.5 years, yeah. And then it was like another year and a half or something that you went to Berlin and ran the operation there. Was there a time that like, because then of course you started to work on Labfresh, before we talk about the idea, that she was like, okay, let's take a break because it was an intense period. Let's take a break. Let's focus on something else. But then in the end you jumped like straight through, okay, let's build a new company and let's start something new. Is she like sometimes on the brakes and keeping you like sane, or is she also just like a train, keep going?
She's like a train. She's giving birth in 2 weeks, and she was in the office until 7:30 yesterday.
Wow.
And she's in the office right now. Like, not that she has to, and I would love for her to work less, but she just enjoys it, and she feels some commitment to the team. She loves going to the office today because I'm not there. There's a lot of people who are not there on Wednesdays, and then she can enjoy it.
Yeah.
In terms of starting a new company after we were in Berlin, it came a bit organically. We didn't discuss it before moving to Berlin. I actually thought that these Germans were so smart and I wanted to stay for a long time. I signed the deal and the Dutch office stayed and our employees stayed there. We were just a handful that went to Berlin. And then really quickly, they started finding me annoying. Everything I wanted to change, there was always someone else who was responsible and I had to go through them, and then everything stalled and nothing happened. And I got weird small projects like setting up Slack for the company. And then I started working less and less, and then started working on other things on the side because I had time on my hands. And I ordered all these weird prototypes via Kickstarter. And then with some of these prototypes, Lotte would see them and say, let's build that. Come on, let's just do it together. And I thought, we can always try and put it on Kickstarter. And if we don't raise 50,000 in the first month, then we say that was not good enough. It's not worth spending our best entrepreneurial years building this, and then we stop.
And that's basically how Labfresh started. Like that was that then the initial idea?
Throw a ball up in the air and see if anybody is interested. Yeah.
And what other balls did you throw in the air that didn't work?
That was the first one.
Okay, that was the first one. So like one hit wonder, like immediately worked.
Yeah. We had ideas for other things, but this was just the first project where we shot a video and we were standing with a prototype and asking our friends if they wanted to spend money on it.
Yeah. And how does someone come up with like, because I never thought about like, oh, you know what would be a great product? Like a shirt that is like repellent or like odorless or those kind of stuff. Like, I mean, were you interested in fashion? I mean, of course, with Cloakroom, like was also like in the fashion industry. But then I think it's a different kind of angle of if you are like part of the fashion industry by providing customers like with clothing, or like you go like one level up to say like, I also want to become my own producer. So was that like a dream of yours, or do you have like any special like passion for that?
No, I don't have any dream about fashion, but I think if you spend enough time in an industry and you find out that parts of it is broken, that can be very exciting. So my first job was in container shipping, and before I started, I thought containers were really boring. It's the biggest company in Denmark called Maersk Line. And then before I started, I read a bunch of books about container shipping, and I realized that it shaped all of world trade. And the reason why anything is being made in China and shipped to Europe is because a container reduced the cost of shipping stuff 10 or 100x or something. And then suddenly I get excited about containers. And the same thing happened with fashion. It's a broken industry where the whole industry is built upon getting you and me to feel like this one is great to wear this year, but next year it's going to feel old and I want another product. Or where you sell products of bad quality, so after you've been wearing it 50 times, it doesn't keep the shape or the color, and then you buy new stuff. It's just fundamentally a broken industry because you're pursuing trends. And at the same time, you have some legacy players that are pretty old-fashioned. So there was a lot of new technologies that I could see on Kickstarter that none of the big fashion houses were embracing. And then that's when you need a little agile innovator to come in and grab them and give everyone a push.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you then basically ordered a couple of prototypes. You tested them and you were like, oh, that's already good enough. We can already like at least start the Kickstarter with this kind of and see if there's basically interest.
Well, I think the phases are first that you identify a problem, an actual problem for yourself and for other people that can be solved. For me, when I was in container shipping, I was traveling in the whole world. I had 180 days or more of travel days. And I was traveling in a white shirt and a suit. And I was in Dubai and Nigeria and China and India and so on, sweating and being dirty and standing in hotel rooms at 1 a.m. asking for an ironing board because I had to iron my shirt for the next day. And when you're used to being a student, it seems crazy that now you have to wear this impractical clothing all the time. Doing 20-hour flights in a suit and stuff like that, because if you put the suit in your suitcase, it's going to get wrinkled and you have to use a dry cleaner. So I already knew the problem. Then I tried to order smarter products, because in Cloakroom we were just selling Ralph Lauren and Tommy Hilfiger and G-Star and normal products. And I kept asking them about shirts with stretch or whatever, with some of the technology that you like from sportswear. Since none of them were using it, and we had these prototypes from Kickstarter, then no matter what age you are, no matter who you are, you can find out who made it and ask them. So I found the French scientist of a certain material on LinkedIn, and I write them and I say, oh, by coincidence, I'm in Paris next month. Can I take you out for lunch? I wasn't in Paris. But when they say, oh, yes, we can have lunch, then I invite Lotte to go to a romantic trip to Paris and have a lunch with these scientists.
Nice. And then you met with the scientists, and what happened then?
Then I'm wearing that product that I had paid for myself to make into a shirt, because they were using it for something else. And I tell them how excited I am, and I show them the depth of knowledge I have about the technologies, because I actually read the academic white papers written about these technologies. And I know what faculty they first came up in at the university and stuff like that. And then they show that by showing that I'm really serious, then they don't hold the patents that close to their body. Then they feel like he's an ally, he knows what you're trying to build, and we will allow him to help out.
Okay. And then basically that was the kickstart of like what is now known to be Labfresh and like the technology around it and stuff. So you basically got to know the technology, the patents, and also like what kind of secrets they used to make it like odorless, to make it like repellent and stuff like this.
Yes, whatever product you want to make that you're passionate about. We live in a world now where all the information you need is readily available. Somebody always made a podcast or wrote a white paper about it. And if you don't have enough knowledge, you can write everyone on LinkedIn. And if you write 20 scientists, one of them will write back. And then you take it from there. Like you can make any product you want nowadays.
And where does this like drive come from? Like, I think because in the end it's like still quite smart. Like I think there would be not a lot of people that would even dare to ask those scientists, because like I think many people would think like, okay, they have a patent, they don't want to share it, like probably, you know, they're like scientists, I don't know like how to even approach them. Like where does your drive come from? Is that...
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess I have always been just moving a lot. I think I would also have been a better student if I was better at focusing, so it's not always a good thing. But I cannot just sit on my hands. So in Berlin, when I cannot really work more than 20 hours efficiently, what am I going to do in my evenings? Am I going to sit and watch Netflix? That doesn't work for me. It's much more fun to try to learn something about a new industry or a new type of product or something.
And why did you decide to launch a crowdfunding campaign in the beginning? Because like your original like path of being in Cloakroom and working with VCs, my first reaction would have been like, oh, I'm just gonna like go the VC route again because I know it. I know I know the process. I probably can also collect like some money for this idea. Why did you go the crowdfunding route?
I think venture capital is very unhealthy for your mind as a young founder in your 20s. It was not good for me. I never became good at making profits because money is just something you raise. So from the beginning, me and Lotte said that there will be no venture capital ever in Labfresh. We want to build it with the customers and we want to take our time. We don't need hockey stick growth. It took us 8 years to get to 10 million. And that's totally fine. It's much better to hone your product and your customer experience and treat people well. We're building a business that we want to own forever. That's been the mantra. And then you have to like the painting that you are painting. You don't want to cut corners. We want to use expensive organic materials or the right type of chemicals instead of the cheap chemicals or something like that.
Yeah, that's interesting, but because I think this mindset doesn't exist so much on the market anymore, right? Especially like in fashion brands or in a lot of startups, like people build companies to be exited in 2 years or something.
But funding for consumer brands is basically gone. In Europe, at least, it's down, 95%. Because there's no explosive hockey stick growth to get. It takes a long time to build a consumer brand. And if you're in a hurry, you're not building a great brand. You have to just put the patience in and know that you're going to run this for 10 years. And the longer you stay in the game, the more benefits you get. If it's a real tech startup and you have competitors and you have to run fast so the competitors don't overtake you, great. Then you have to be in a hurry. But as a consumer brand, it's not a winner-takes-all market. There's no fashion brand with a double-digit market share. So just focus on your own business and don't worry so much about the competition and your speed.
Yeah. And then you launched basically the first crowdfunding campaign. I think you collected around 150K, or was it around 150K? So the money arrives at your bank account, and like how does it feel? Like you're like, okay, so now we actually have to build it, right?
Yes. Now there's no doubt anymore about whether I should have a company with my lover, or if I should be in fashion or make a physical hardware product, which was not really on my roadmap earlier. Now I have to do it, so it's not a celebration moment per se. All of these 1,500 people transferred me money, and I have to make a good enough product. And I don't fully trust that the factory can make it well enough because they only made one. Right? Is it going to be as good when they make 2,000?
And what were then like the first steps basically? Like, of course, you started then like more researching and like probably like talking with the manufacturers, like, hey, can we even produce this many products? Were there any like first like fails that you can?
We did that beforehand, like made sure that they could scale it, and we had the purchase order ready. So when the money was there, we just placed the order. and you pay up front, right? And when it's the first time you produce something, no factory will just look at your smiling face and give you 30 days of credit terms. They need the money on the bank account before they start any machines. What was so horrible about it is that we tested the product, we tested it on my body and we washed it a bunch of times, but not enough. So we realized the fabrics lost the color quite too fast because the treatments that we were using affects the bleach you use in a shirt. You can't use the same amount of bleach because bleach is a very tough chemicals, and we only use very soft natural chemicals. So they kind of became yellow, the first batch. And we had to email everyone after 6 months, I think, and say they can buy a new shirt at cost price because we're sorry that after 20 washes or something that it became kind of yellow. That's just super embarrassing, and we thought everyone would hate us. But it also created our second big learning. And that is, as long as you're being a human and you're being upfront and so on, people will accept a lot of mistakes from you in the beginning. The same with your customer service. When the parcel doesn't arrive on time or a button is missing or whatever it is, if you apologize and you take the blame and you're upfront and so on, then people will like you even more.
Interesting.
Some of our first angel investors were people who came through customer care because they had a delivery issue. And they were so impressed at how Lotte was handling it. She was doing customer service in the beginning. So they just wrote, I like this. I would like to invest because you seem like good people.
Oh, that's funny. So like basically honesty and trust and transparency is like the way to build companies.
Yeah. And the worst, which is something that I think most startups do in the beginning, is that you want to be a professional. You know, you click on the About Us page and it doesn't say the names of the founders and there's no pictures. You just describe a vision. And you have a picture of a corporate headquarters or something. And I think that's always so stupid. Just people are buying from people. And don't try to fake that you're a big company when you're not. Especially in the Netherlands and Denmark. We like to support the underdogs more than the big corporations. They trust you if you say that, hey, we're Lotte and Kasper. We made this shirt in our living room.
That's so fun. And you just mentioned like now you reached like more than 10 million euro of turnover. It took you like 8 years to get there. But how did the company kind of progress over the years? So you had like your first batch sent out, you had to email people basically again. What were like then like the next steps, like with hiring, building the company, like how did that evolve?
So we had the early stage phase where if you did your priming well and you know your market and you made a good product, you will have an explosion when you first launch, an explosion of awareness. The media will write about you, right? There's PR to get. All your friends think it's exciting. It's just great. So it boomed in the beginning. And the first year we made 2.5 million euros in revenue, something like that, out of nothing. And then you think, oh, second year is also going to be an explosion. Maybe we're going to go 200% or something because obviously this is going to continue. Then the second year we only grew 8%. But now we spend money on marketing, which we didn't do the first year. So then you learn how to... Basically, when you launch your Shopify web shop, then you start again from 5,000 euros in revenue, and then you climb to 10,000 and 15. It's not like because you did 150,000 in your first month that you're going to do that every month. It actually, for us, booms, and then it drops, almost all the way down to zero, and then you build it up again.
Okay, so it's always an up and down. Like, what was the worst like period for you, like, and with Labfresh? In the past 8 years, were there also like moments where you thought about quitting?
Yeah, there's 2 times where it almost wasn't worth it anymore. The first one was right when we built it up again, and then the revenue was bigger and better than in the beginning. Then Corona happened, and everyone says, "Oh, this was really tough," blah blah blah. But I always say that it was more tough for us because we were only selling white and blue business shirts, and all the videos were like, "You wear this in the office, and it's the uniform for." It's for shirt warriors, you know?
Yeah.
And now there's no business traveling and there's no weddings and nobody wears a shirt to the office anymore. So revenue just dropped 90%, boom, like this.
Wow.
And we just built up a team and this team was amazing. Many of the people from this team are doing amazing things today also. We had 14 people and we took all of them to Bali for a month, right? We lived in a co-working space and we worked from the pool and it was great. And then we come home from Bali and then some months later we fire everyone. We kept 2 people, 1.5 people, because one was a student worker and one was a full-timer. And everyone else was just out, and we thought, okay, now I'm back to writing my own newsletters and I build my own ads and we do everything ourselves. Is that really fun? Are we too old for that? Should we get normal jobs? But then you build it up again, nice and slowly. And at some point Corona is over and we started making more products, pants and sweatshirts and whatever other products we could sell instead of shirts. And in the end, like many people say, then Corona turns out to be a blessing because you made a better business out of it. We have a full collection now, which is much more fun than only making shirts. And it's much less risky. And then the second time, then it almost wasn't worth it anymore. It was more personal. Because Lotte and I didn't enjoy working together anymore. We were all the time fighting. And it was mainly me being annoying. Because I was in her shit all the time. And we needed therapy, basically. So we got a coach, a very, very expensive coach, and he would coach us at the same time. And it would turn into couples therapy sessions where we would be bickering and fighting in front of him. And he would write stuff on a board, which the summary of that board is basically that I should take a chill pill. But also that I didn't fit into the culture because we created a very soft culture. And I'm very hard in the way I communicate and the expectations I have to people. So we had to rebuild everything and work with the company and the organization in a much more structured manner.
And do you think that like now the culture that you have now is this like really because of that like pivotal moment?
Yeah, absolutely. It also forced Lotte to be more serious as an operator. So now we use the EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operator System, from this book called Traction. And they also have a name for our type of co-founders couple. That's called Rocket Fuel. That's the most successful type of co-founder relationship you can have. One visionary and one integrator/operator. That's what you had in Apple and in so many other companies. But it's rocket fuel because it can also explode if you don't have the right way to structure how you work together. And this I also see with so many other founder couples when they're fighting. It's because they say, you do product and I do marketing, then you do e-com and I do customer service. This can never work if you have a visionary co-founder. Because I'm going to neglect the daily operations of marketing if I'm the only one doing it. And the same for an operator. So we are both involved in product. We're both involved in finance. But that means Lotte runs the accountant and she runs the books and she makes sure we have monthly reporting and so on. And I will make the deck and I will do the fundraising and I will paint, we can say the strategic vision. I will do the forecasting and budgeting. If one of us was doing finance, it would be absolute horseshit.
Yeah.
So it seems counterintuitive that we're both involved in all departments, but this is the way to organize it without a doubt.
Yeah, and also for your like peace of mind, also like in private life, because I think otherwise you would also like if you would have not that figured out, you would clash all the time, not only in business but also in private life.
Yeah.
For everyone listening out there that thinks now like, hey, I also want to found like a company together with my partner, together with my friend. Like what is your advice there? Like, is it then to read the book, to do therapy, like business coaching from the beginning to find the perfect match?
For sure, start by mapping your personalities. This is also fun to do, and you want to know yourself better, and preferably do it with a psychologist. We use FirstMind, where you do a really elaborate scan online, and then you have an intake with a psychologist, and they tell you the potential dangers of the combination of your two personalities. We do it for the entire team, by the way, also. So in the marketing team, we see how the different personalities in that team can clash and how they can work the best together. And then we map the functions after that. And
is it an Enneagram, or what kind of personality test is it?
It's called FirstMind. There's 4 colors. You have a bunch of core talents. And the talents are what you get energy out of doing. So it does. For example, I have a score of 0 in empathy. It doesn't mean that I'm a bad guy, but I need to be very focused on it. And if I forget to focus on being nice to you, I will keep showering you in feedback until you're dying inside, and I will not see it in your face that you're very sad now and you're not listening anymore and I should stop unless I'm aware of it.
Yeah.
And then I'm very blue, which is the one where you are thinking a lot and you're quite academic and you always have a plan for the future. I always have 100 roadmaps, but I don't have to show these roadmaps to everyone. right? They're not ready because they're busy running the business. So if I in a weekly meeting go in and I talk about what we're gonna do for Christmas, they can't handle it. We have to wait. So you have a monthly meeting where I can talk about the future stuff, and in the weekly you just stick to operation. Like airtight decision making, but based on what type of meeting you're in.
Okay, so like your number one tip would be learn about your personalities, and then from there basically try to define your roles in a company.
Yes, and then don't just quit your job and then start figuring out what product you want or what problem you're solving. This is not a full-time job in the beginning. Do it next to your normal job, because there's a lot of waiting time, especially if you have to prototype a physical specimen of something. And then nowadays I would always build community, build traction or distribution before I make any product. If you want to open a gym, then don't start by trying to find the building. Now, this is a very old school way of doing it. Start making content about your routines and build up a following, because then you learn the niche. And then once you want to launch it, you already have people who are interested. The same with fashion or makeup or whatever it is you want to make. There's no reason to say, I'm going to be building in stealth here, this secret product with a secret formula, and then boom, I'm going to surprise everyone, and then I have a ready product. Build in public.
Yeah, I think that the old system doesn't really work anymore. I think now this kind of like building public is becoming more and more like interesting. But it has to be honest, I still see like a lot of founders also trying to build in public, but only the polished, like cool things, and like only the, oh, I'm invited here, or I'm in a banquet here, or I do this, or I travel. But that will also not work. Like if people can smell it so far, if you're bullshitting, like it's...
I'm not a fan of that, no. I think it's very dangerous to also, if you talk about how you're working 80 hours a week and you just love it, and you see all these pictures where you're grinding away Saturday, Sunday, and then other young founders will feel inadequate and they're not working hard enough. I had that feeling all the time in the beginning, but I learned now that it is bullshit. Nobody can work 80 hours a week for a sustained period of time. And if you do, you're going to be a dick and your team is not going to like you. And maybe if you're coding or something, that's fine. But if you do anything related to humans, get your sleep, prioritize your mental health, because it's just not sustainable in any other way, only for very short sprints.
Do you have any other tips for founders in terms of like the mental health space? I think I find it quite important. Or what are you doing to kind of like keep the balance?
Lod and I, we are both resilient. So we never really had any real feelings of stress, even though we many times have been having less than €0 on the bank account. But you have to have a certain stress resiliency. This is important because it's not for everyone to be a founder. I have been awake half of the night today because I'm thinking about some stuff that I didn't finish yesterday, that I have to do today, and that can be very dangerous. And founders have much worse mental health than normal employees. It's crazy to see the amount of abuse and sleep depravity, like abuse in terms of alcohol or drugs, and the depression levels and all this stuff. It's crazy hard mentally to run a business, even if it's small. Almost worse if it's small, because you have the happiness of your team in your hands, and you don't have a lot of people to share it with. When you have, let's say you're running out of money, are you going to tell your team? Don't do it. It's not their stress. It's your burden to carry. They have to focus on their own role, and this is just something you have to carry.
And if someone wants to start, for example, in fashion, and says like, hey, Kasper, like you are working in fashion since so long, what is kind of like the hard truth that you would tell them?
The hard truth is that the sexier an industry is, the more you're going to be overworked and underpaid. It's really hard to make money in fashion. In my founder group, out of 50 people, the ones that are in fashion are some of the best operators I know, because you have to be, otherwise you die. But there's so many fashion brands that goes bankrupt all the time, where we don't even know. Maybe many people don't know how many times Scotch & Soda went bankrupt. Or it's hard to make money in this game. So you do it. You should do it because you love fashion. That's not why I do it. I just fell into it, and then I have to stay. And then if you choose to be in fashion, either be the best creator or use technology. But don't just say, I'll make the best white t-shirt in the world. That's just extremely hard. And by creator, actually I say, if you're going to start a business in fashion today, I would never myself do it unless I have I'm starting a creator-led brand, where you have a co-founder who has major distribution because they're sort of famous and they love creating content and they are your content machine. It doesn't have to be a Kardashian. It can be a lot less followers. But what the role of one co-founder is just that storytelling from they wake up in the morning till they go to bed.
Yeah, that's true. I think I've had a couple of guests also on a podcast recently that like really perfected that kind of like storytelling, and that fueled their whole business. Matthias from 8 hours or 8 sleep.
That's an excellent example.
Yeah. Daniel Dalen, for example, he was also here in the podcast. Like they're really perfecting that kind of content game, and that fuels their whole like business pipeline. It's really, really insane.
And so we do that a lot too, that me and Lotte is in this content, but we are not good at it. We're not natural. When we just been to Thailand for 3 weeks and we took like 4 pictures, you know, and sometimes when we're in a factory or something, our content team will say, please shoot some videos. And it's just horrible. It's just bad.
Selfie videos. Oh, I forgot to turn the camera.
But we are in hundreds of videos because it makes sense.
Yeah.
But we're just not natural creators. So this it's a constant struggle to make enough content.
Yeah.
And I would love for that to be easier if I started a new business.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, if you would have like a filmer with you all the time, I mean, which would probably make sense, but then it also like creates like another burden also for the relationship, right? Because in the end, like your life really changes then, you know, you become kind of also like almost more like a content creator, like a vlogger, and anyone that seriously created content, you have to like think of filming so many times in moments where it's so unnatural and so uncomfortable, but you have to do it like in restaurants where people watch, and like you sit there and you have to put up the camera and everyone looks at you and you are like,
you gotta.
And
this is, you can choose to start a consumer facing brand and be anonymous. It's very expensive to make that choice, but it's your choice to make. But I would not recommend it. It's just better to get comfortable in front of the camera or choose another type of product to launch.
Yeah.
We just went to Portugal to visit some factories, and for the first time I brought 2 of our in-house creators with us, and it was of course so different from a normal factory visit. And if you look at the videos on Instagram, you know, you see us driving in a car and then suddenly I get a question in my head, or we eat some Portuguese food in the restaurant and then there's another question, or we walk in the streets. Every time we are somewhere and I want to check some emails, they will say, oh, this is a very nice setting, or I like the lighting here. And then they have a list of stuff that they want to talk about, and we choose a topic, and then we have to shoot again.
Yeah, so it's an exhausting life as a content creator. That's also why I respect content creators so much. I think a lot of times, like influencer content creator, they are like a little bit frowned upon. Like, oh, it's so easy to earn money for you with like your following and stuff like this. And then if you ever created content yourself, you realize how much work, how much dedication, how much like money and time goes into it to create high quality content.
It's hard because you're always on, right? Your brain is always saying, this is an opportunity I cannot miss. It's just like, once you have that mindset, you better go with it, because you're not going to enjoy the dinner more if you know that there was an opportunity here for something that would fit into your content strategy.
Yeah.
And then you just neglected it. So you just have to go with it once you're in the creator mindset.
And it's also like about if you put it on a like personal level, it's also about enjoying things, right? Like if for example, like in on your holiday in Thailand, like, are you gonna watch the sunset, or are you gonna be busy putting a time lapse, looking that you're in the frame, looking 2-3 times back to the camera, like, oh, is it still there? Are we captured? Is the lightning? Do we have to change the ISO level? Do I have to do anything? It's also about enjoyment, right? So are you gonna enjoy the mental picture and just sit there with Lotte and enjoy the sunset, or are you gonna capture it for social media that you can say like, we as founders, we also take some time off?
Yeah, exactly. That's why we don't shoot any content in our private life. That's why we don't have any videos of sunsets.
Just enjoying.
We're just enjoying it. Yeah. And Lotte is also really good at, you know, we wake up in the morning and we sit somewhere, or, you know, I go to the bathroom and I come back and she's just sitting and looking, not picking up her screen or anything. There's no screen that her eyes are facing. And that's just freaky sometimes to look at, because everyone else is looking at something and she's just thinking and being more mindful. So that's a big inspiration.
That's your chance to do the morning routine, you know, the ice baths and all this kind of stuff with the content.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
If you look back now at the past couple of years, I think you're like in a really interesting phase right now. You just ended another successful crowdfunding campaign, collecting 800K. What's the next kind of growth steps gonna be for Labfresh?
Yeah, we still do crowdfunding, even though we could also get a bank loan nowadays.
Yeah.
I would say. I don't actually know because we never really went through and asked for a loan. But the reason why we every year ask customers for some sort of involvement is because that's the best way to build community. Especially when your target group are what I call mature men, like us. 28 plus, that's a mature man. If asking people to help is the best way to build community. And one thing we decided on is in this next part of the growth journey, we don't want to grow up. No venture capital or private equity. We don't want to sell any part of the business. And if possible, we want to do it without any bank loans also. We just want to continue growing it with our customers. So that's these two growth journeys in terms of revenue. So now we went from 0 to 10 million and then from 10 million to 100 million. That can take the same amount of time if you have the same compounded annual growth rate as we had in the last 3 years. But it's a different personality that needs to get the company there. So we have to embrace the personal growth journey of becoming the type of people who can operate a business of that size. And that's not where we are now because we are involved in too many things. And we had a hard time building a management team. So our coach would say that we have an immature management team, probably because 1 year ago we didn't have a management team. Everyone just reported to Lotte or me. So this growth journey is more about replacing ourselves and attracting really talented people and allowing them to also be motivated and owning their own areas.
Is it going to be hard for you to kind of also let this go? Because I also have the feeling that you truly enjoy the involvement in all kind of like things.
Yeah, it's hard because most founders, if you have been good at getting your brand to 10 million, it means you're good at building stuff with your own hands. And this next phase means I shouldn't build so many things with my own hands. I should more be a full-time manager and leader. And that's really unfulfilling in the beginning, right? You feel like I had an unproductive day because I only had meetings. And you have to get into that right mindset where you will get your joy out of enabling other people to build stuff. And I have failed at that so far. Every time we hired good people and put them in charge of big areas and senior people, initially the performance tend to drop because it's not a founder anymore. But if you allow, I really believe if you allow people to be in that role for longer, then after 2 years, they probably do it better than us. But obviously the first 6 months, there's a big risk that they won't do it as well as me. But then I need to still stay out of their lane and trust in the process.
Is it difficult for you to be patient?
Yeah, that's where in my personality, I have the lowest scores and where people can be the most stressed because of me. I think I move very fast myself. And I just cannot handle when people think things through and are perfectionist and so on. It's and I'm not sure I want to fix it. I want to fix it a little bit. I should have a bit more patience, but it's also one of my core strengths that I don't allow things to take too much time.
Yeah, I don't think it's a negative characteristic per se. I think it's like if you would have too much patience, you would have also never built this company, right? I mean, that's just.
I mean, all the best entrepreneurs I know are impatient, and they can become very annoying when things are moving too slow. But that's how you get out of the grind, get out of the mud, and get going again.
Yeah, I think that entrepreneurship in general is a lot of times measured in like numeric numbers, like revenue numbers, profit, all this kind of stuff. If you look back the past 10, 15 years that you are like in the entrepreneurial space, what was your best moment and like most proudest moment so far that is not connected to numbers?
The proudest moment. Well, there's a proud moment in for me when we opened our second store. I'm not a retail person. Now we have 3 stores and we fundraised to open 2 more. And we spent 200,000 euros building each store and they look perfect. And in the Copenhagen store we opened, and that's my home country, that's my hometown. It's beautiful. It's the most expensive, fanciest store we built. We have an office on top. We have a roof terrace. It was just an amazing feeling to be there and see my grandmother and everyone in this space. And maybe I've been living abroad for 14, 15 years. And then it just feels like now I have a place here, and I have these 13, 14 Danish people working there, and Danish people shopping in my shop every day. Of course, we sell more online than we do in that shop, but still, it's a physical manifestation of us doing something well in my home country. And still 85% of revenue or something is online. But whenever I'm in one of our stores, because it all looks nice and I see customers shopping our products, and in Amsterdam, our office is on top of the store. So it's many times every week, some customer will say, I really like what you guys are doing, because they see me at the coffee machine or something. And that always feels amazing.
So it makes it also more real than, I think as well, right?
I'm really happy that we chose to build our offices on top of the stores in Copenhagen and Amsterdam. Yeah, that's a good feeling.
That's nice. And what was the best business advice you ever received?
That was that entrepreneurship is a personal growth journey disguised as a business. I think it was one of our first angel investors in the cloakroom that said this. And that's basically, in the context of an investor, you just want the entrepreneurs you invested in to grow as exponentially as you think their business will grow. And if they don't grow fast enough, there's a big risk that your investment will not pan out to be a big return. So I really like that approach, that I just focus on me growing as fast as I can, and then the business will also do well.
What's the best business advice you ever given?
I try to not give the most advice, because all my advice is based on my own tiny little niche experience. So it doesn't mean that it applies to what you are doing on other guys. So I just try to tell anecdotes and what I liked and what worked for me. But something I've been saying to a lot of young people, also if I've been doing some lectures at universities, I try to say that the whole thing about choosing to be in a startup or in a corporate, or to be an entrepreneur or an employee, that's bullshit, and stop putting these labels on things. Because I started in a very corporate job, and we even had a rule that we had to wear a tie. I was wearing a suit and tie every day, and I learned so much great stuff being a graduate in a big corporate in the beginning. So, choose your own journey.
Yeah.
And every experience you have can matter. And there's nothing bad about being in a big corporate. Actually, you're surrounded by really smart people who have time to teach you. I would actually say that if you are a university graduate who wants to be an entrepreneur, unless you have a natural business acumen, don't join a startup. Don't be the e-com manager in a startup and then you have to learn from a founder or something, because they're too busy. Join a bigger company where they have time to teach you the ropes. And then for your second job, okay, then you can join a startup or start your own startup. But learn from the big boys first.
Yeah, no, I agree. Also for me, I think was the same with my corporate experience. I never worked in a corporate before. But later on, when I had to sell to corporates or sell to people working in corporates for my own business, I understood exactly the needs of okay, what does the marketing manager need to sell it to the VP or to sell it to the CMO? What material do they need? What what language do I need to use? Can I help them setting up a presentation that they don't have to do, but they look really smart in meetings, and all this kind of stuff that you learn. I think you don't learn when you are in a startup, because that doesn't exist there. But when you see in a corporate, the structures, also how you can reach a CMO, or a CEO or a CFO, what do they want to hear? How do they need to look when they come into meetings? What goes?
Exactly. A startup is learning by doing.
Yeah.
And here in Maersk, they would teach us to be grown-ups, right? How to be professionals. Yeah. I remember we had workshops on how to manage your calendar and how to run an efficient meeting. And to this day, you could also see it with my co-founder in the cloakroom, when maybe he had only been in startups, really cool startups, but then he was more chaotic. And I knew exactly how to make a meeting invite and to make sure there's agenda shared beforehand and these basic things. And that can really benefit you, because a startup is just chaotic. And Labfresh is not that chaotic anymore. It's really, really well organized. Usually when I show to people how it looks behind the facade, it has corporate vibes.
Is that something that you try to still keep, or something that you also still want to be the fresh kind of startup scale up in a way?
I want to keep it. A startup is a temporary organization you create in the pursuit of something scalable. And that temporarity part, that you need that if you're making a tech startup and you have no idea where you're going to end up, and maybe you're going to pivot 5 times. We are 8 years old. We know what we're doing. I can budget pretty accurately. So when we get young people in, I want them to be professionals. I will teach them to make their Asana cards with dates on. And if we agree that you finish these 4 things in a week, and I find out the next Monday you didn't finish them, we have a big problem. If you tell me Wednesday that you can only finish 4 of the 5, which one you shouldn't finish, then I'm going to be very happy. This is just basic behavior that the majority of people are not displaying. And if you learn this, you're going to be the favorite of any new employer you will have in the rest of your career. It's not hard things to manage. Most people just don't do it.
Yeah, just basic communication.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a good business advice.
If you tell me what you're going to do and when you're going to do it, and if you have a roadblock, that's it. Then you're probably a top 5% employee in any company you go into.
Yeah, nice. I think that's really good business advice, or advice in general for people like in a job. If we look into the future of Labfresh, the next 5 years, 3 years, where do you see yourself going?
So the biggest fundamental shift is that it turns out that having a direct-to-consumer brand, like we have right now, 100% of our sales is in a Shopify system. It's our own flagship stores and our web shop. That turns out to not be very profitable. A scalable consumer brand has to be multi-channel. You have to sell on Amazon, and you have to have some wholesale clients and open some shop-in-shops or whatever. Direct-to-consumer is a channel. It's not a business model. That's why we're opening more shops now. The retail shops we have are more profitable than our online business. And the only way I can afford to keep running print advertising or out of home or these kind of things is if I need a broader distribution for that. And then on the product side, we did something that makes my life way harder. We started making a women's wear collection. And women are so difficult compared to men. And I don't understand them because I've been only selling to men since 2013. I have never had a woman as a customer before. And now we have a lot of them. And we're not doing it well enough now. And we need to give women as much attention as we give men, even though women are only 5% of revenue. Otherwise, it won't work.
Yeah, I'm curious if you can crack the nut with this market. But knowing you and knowing how dedicated you are on finding out new things and diving into things, I have no doubt that you will succeed.
Maybe we need 10 years for it, but I think in the end we will get there.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's a time component, right? So if you want to say I want to crack it in the next 2 months, then probably will not reach it. But in 10 years, I'm sure you will. I have 3 final questions. I'm asking to every guest.
That's a lot.
That's a lot, but they're super quick. What are you learning right now that you're not good at?
Dutch.
Dutch?
Yeah, I've been here for 12 years and I don't speak Dutch yet. It's embarrassing. I'm Danish. It's not that difficult. I'm sure you're great at Dutch.
I understand it well, but also I speak way too less. But I can have conversations, and I do watch some Dutch TV sometimes. What title would you give this chapter of your life?
I would relate it to personal growth, because instead of learning actual skills and tactics now, I'm growing because I'm growing as a father and as a leader and so on, and I'm trying to develop all these soft skills. So maybe I would call it the soft journey.
The soft journey, very nice. And if you could send a SMS to all mobile phones in the world, what would you say?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say, yeah, that's a hard one, because then it's not really related to my business or my personal life. It's like, what do I want? What are they going to listen to? I think I would send them a link to an article about a topic that makes the whole world better, and where I'm not the authority on that area.
And you don't know the article yet, but that would be something that you would send.
Yeah. And since it's coming from me, it's probably a good idea if it's related to textile waste, because we make some of the most durable products in the world because of the fibers. So I would focus on that text message, getting people to a page that will enable them to consume less and know that it's actually really, really stupid to buy cheap clothing, because it will last shorter. And the textile industry is the second most polluting industry in the world. So good luck. Luckily we can clean it up ourselves. All we have to do is buy less shit.
So the inspirational message is gonna be like buy less cheap shit, and like an article supporting that.
That shows all the data of how we have also been tested by the biggest lab in Europe, Citeve in Portugal, on how durable our shirt is compared to the best non-iron shirt in the world from a Swedish brand, Eton. And it's like 5 times more durable, right? There's no shrinkage. It doesn't lose color. After 100 washes, it's going to look as good as new. So that means it's the cheapest shirt in the world. And I know we charge 119 euros for it. But if your body stays the same, it will continue to look good when you wear it. So in some ways, like, to get people to understand sometimes that you spend a little bit more money, but if you buy it on something that's qualified quality, not brand. Sometimes you pay for the brand, not the quality. But if you pay for quality, that's almost always a better investment for you and for the planet.
Nice. Kasper, thank you so much for coming to the 301 podcast. I really, really enjoyed the conversation. We really went like all different directions, from your past in Cloakroom to the startup grind to like the crowdfunding campaigns, and also like now really scaling Labfresh from 0 to 10 million, then again almost back to 0, and now back up again, which is really, really amazing. Thank you so much for coming on. It was really a pleasure.
Thanks for the invitation.
And for you, it's now time to subscribe to the 301 podcast. There's still over 80% that are not subscribed to the 301 podcast. So go subscribe right now, that we can bring on more amazing guests like Kasper. See you next time in the 301 podcast.